Welcome, dear listener. As you settle in, feeling the weight of the day gently lift from your shoulders, let your breath deepen and slow. Tonight, we'll drift down the Nile, not on a luxurious bark, but into the steamy, dusty courtyards and humble mud brick homes of ancient Egypt, where cleanliness was a divine mandate, but far from a pleasant affair. Tell me, have you ever wondered what it really meant to stay clean in a land of relentless sun, sticky oils, and rivers that fed both royalty and rot? It is the year 1320 BCE, and you are not a pharaoh, not a priest, not even a merchant. You are an ordinary villager. The air smells of cooked barley and cattle dung. Your tunic, stiff with dried sweat, clings to your skin like papyrus glue. And yet, someone just accused you of being impure. Not because of your sins. No, because of the grime on your arms. Cleanliness in ancient Egypt was not just about smelling nice. It was a spiritual condition. To be dirty was to be ritually polluted, unfit to approach the gods. The priests of Karnak shaved their entire bodies every other day, not for vanity, for purity. They bathed up to 4 times daily. Their lives were a whirlwind of water, natron, and fragrance. But you had the Nile, if the crocodiles didn't mind. Bathing in ancient Egypt was rarely a private ritual. There were no marble tubs, no steam rooms for the common folk. You'd walk, barefoot, across cracked mud paths toward the edge of the riverbank, perhaps carrying a clay jar. The water shimmered, greenish-brown, home to catfish, frogs, parasites, and worse. Soap didn't exist as we know it. Instead, natron, a gritty, salty mixture of sodium carbonate and bicarbonate, was rubbed onto the skin. It dried you out like sun-baked linen, but at least it scraped away the sweat. Oils, too, were essential. They didn't clean, they concealed. After bathing, you'd slather your skin with castor or moringa oil, thick and sticky, sometimes perfumed with myrrh or lotus. This wasn't indulgence, it was survival. Without it, your skin would crack under the brutal Egyptian sun. But the oil also trapped dust, so each cleaning created its own new layer of filth. And hair? Well, it was complicated. Lice thrived in the heat. Most people, men, women, and children, shaved their heads. Wigs were common, made from human hair or palm fibers, styled with beeswax and scented with incense. Imagine the smell after 3 days in a village oven of 38 degrees Celsius. Sweet, sour, sacred sweat and musk. As night falls, you huddle inside your home. A single room, dark and close, its air heavy with the breath of goats and smoke. Tomorrow the ritual repeats. More sweat, more oil, more dust. You will not feel clean, not the way we know it, but you will be pure in the eyes of your gods. You wake before dawn, the Nile mist curling through the village like a ghostly ribbon. The air tastes of damp reeds and morning smoke. You stretch your aching limbs, feeling the itch of yesterday's dried oil mixed with river silt on your skin. You know what awaits you, another journey toward cleanliness, though your bones crave rest more than ritual. The village around you begins to stir. Children run barefoot, their hair shorn and shiny with oil. Their laughter echoes off mud brick walls, punctuated by the low groans of oxen preparing for field work. The older women rub their arms and faces with handfuls of natron, grimacing as the salty paste bites into small cuts and mosquito bites. You glance at your own cracked hands, wondering if you'll ever feel soft again. Meanwhile, in the temples, priests glide like pale ghosts. They are shaven, oiled, perfumed to an almost dizzying degree. Their bodies are free from hair, believed to be a mark of animal wildness and unclean chaos. They rinse themselves with water drawn from sacred pools, reciting prayers as they wash each limb, an arm, a forearm, each finger, each toe, every gesture a plea for divine favor. But this luxury is reserved only for them. You, by contrast, haul heavy clay jars of Nile water to your small courtyard. Each jar weighs as much as a sleepy goat. As you pour the water over your shoulders, you shiver, even under the sun. It is not refreshing. It is cold and carries a faint smell of rotting lotus roots and fish slime. But you have no choice. You rub natron along your arms until they sting, trying to scrape away the sweat and sand that collect in the folds of your elbows. Nearby, your neighbor's wife prepares scented cones of fat, perfumed wax lumps that people place on their shaved heads during banquets or religious festivals. As the heat melts them, the wax drips down, releasing fragrant myrrh and cinnamon oil. But today, she's saving the cones for a coming festival. You imagine the thick, sweet perfume masking the stench of living so close to goats and human waste. Even the thought feels like a distant luxury. Sometimes, when the Nile floods, the water carries rotting plants and floating refuse right up to the door of your home. Your sandals, made of woven papyrus, squish under your feet, never fully dry. The smell of mold crawls into your nostrils at night, a constant reminder that this land, so worshipped for its fertility, can also rot you from the inside out. But the priests say all this pain is necessary. To be worthy of Ra's sunlight, you must offer a cleansed body, no matter the price. And so you continue, day after day, scraping, oiling, and shivering, whispering small prayers as you scrub the salt into your skin. As dusk falls, the horizon burns orange and violet, and you rest your head against the cool mud brick wall of your house. Your mind drifts to the noble's gardens, lotus ponds, manicured palm groves, servants gently pouring warm scented water over their masters' heads. You imagine slipping into those gardens, hiding among the lilies, breathing in jasmine instead of fish rot. But you are not a noble. You are you, a dusty soul caught between the Nile's promise and its curse. Tonight, as you rest your weary bones against the mud brick wall, your skin tingles from the rough natron. The salt has left red streaks, as though your arms were painted with quiet scars. You close your eyes and hear the chorus of nighttime Egypt, the distant croak of frogs, The slow breathing of cattle, the soft hiss of wind slipping through papyrus reeds. But even as you drift, you cannot escape the invisible weight of cleanliness. It clings to you like the night air, thick and stubborn. For the privileged, purity was a performance, elaborate, fragrant, almost theatrical. In the villas of Thebes, noble women were gently massaged with imported oils, pressed from almonds or blue lotus. Servants fanned them while they reclined on alabaster beds, golden mirrors reflecting every curve of their polished skin. They sipped sweet date wine, and when they bathed, they used sponges imported from the Mediterranean, soft and pliable. Meanwhile, you stand in the queue at the riverbank, waiting for a turn to fetch water that might be shared with herons and crocodiles. The sun scorches your scalp, but you've shaved it to avoid lice, a daily reminder of vulnerability. Even the small children around you wear amulets shaped like Bes, the dwarf god who protected them from evil spirits, and perhaps from the biting bugs that infest every corner. Disease was a silent partner in this dance of purity. Parasites slithered into wounds during river baths. Stomach cramps curled people into knots, and fever snatched away the old and the young without warning. You might wake up one morning to find a neighbor's house quiet. The reed mat rolled over the doorway, a sign that death had visited silently during the night. You dream sometimes of simply not washing at all, just letting the layers of oil, sweat, and dust become a protective armor, turning you into something half statue, half human. But that would mean shame, social exile, perhaps even being barred from temple festivals. Those rare moments when the village briefly sparkled with music and flower garlands. At festival time, the nobles wore elaborate wigs perfumed with lilies. They tossed petals into the air, pretending that the smell of decay and swamp didn't crawl up from the river. You watch from a distance, your hands still raw from scraping natron, and wondered if their gods could smell your poverty beneath the incense smoke. Sometimes you think of the workers building tombs in Deir el-Medina. Even they, under the whips of overseers, received daily rations of oil and natron, not out of kindness, but to keep them clean enough to enter sacred spaces. Their bodies broke under stones, their lungs filled with limestone dust. Yet still, before collapsing on their reed mats, they smeared oil across cracked feet and whispered to the gods for mercy. As you drift toward sleep, a single mosquito whines at your ear. You brush it away lazily, the motion almost tender. In this world, you are forever caught between dirt and divinity, a fragile vessel trying to stay pure in a land that demands both devotion and dust. Tomorrow, you will return to the river, to the natron, to the small humiliations that keep you within your community, among your gods, and under the sun's unforgiving gaze.
You wake in the ink-black pre-dawn, long before Ra's fiery eye peeks over the horizon. The air is thick, close, heavy with the smell of last night's cooking fires, the sour tang of sweat, and the faint sweetness of crushed lotus flowers from the festival preparations. You take a deep breath, but the scent turns your stomach more than it soothes. This morning, a festival is coming. You've saved a small lump of natron, carefully rationed, hidden beneath a broken pot. You rub it over your chest and arms, wincing as it stings tiny cuts and insect bites. You imagine the priest's voice echoing in the temple halls. Purity is next to godliness. But here, on the cracked courtyard floor, purity feels more like punishment. Your neighbors are busy plucking the last fresh petals from lotus stems to create garlands. Children run barefoot, their skin caked with yesterday's oil and dust, laughing as if they weren't scratching at lice under their arms between giggles. The more you watch them, the more you feel a quiet ache beneath your ribs, that endless hunger to be seen as beautiful, as worthy, even when your skin betrays you. A nearby noble's bark glides by on the river, decorated with blue and gold paint. You can almost smell the imported frankincense wafting from it, so strong it seems to float above the swampy stench of the river. Servants pour warm, perfumed water onto their masters' heads, droplets catching the sun like tiny stars. They sprinkle crushed myrrh onto the deck to cover the smell of human waste and fish guts below. You close your eyes and imagine what it would feel like. Warm, scented water cascading down your back instead of the shock of Nile sludge. Gentle hands massaging fragrant oil into your scalp instead of your own cracked fingers scraping natron across raw skin.
But then you hear a loud splash. A neighbor's child has slipped from the bank into the river. Everyone runs, shouting as someone drags the coughing, terrified child back up. The water clings to the child's small body like a second skin, glimmering with river scum and bits of floating reed. In the background, a crocodile's yellow eyes gleam, patient and ancient. Later, you help prepare the festival meal, mostly lentils and barley bread, a few dried fish, the smell strong enough to turn the stomach if you weren't so desperately hungry. You watch the priests pass by in spotless linen, their bald heads glistening under cones of perfumed fat. Their steps are slow and deliberate, as if they glide above the mud rather than slog through it like you. As the sun blazes overhead, your skin starts to burn again. The oil you applied this morning already feels gritty, mixing with dust kicked up by dancing feet and ox hooves. You try to join in the singing, but your voice comes out thin and raspy. Perhaps tomorrow you will lose it altogether, your throat raw from dust and heat. But you keep moving. You clap your hands, smile at neighbors, pretend not to notice the crawling itch at your scalp or the sting in your eyes. You tell yourself you are part of something grand, a ritual for the gods, a celebration of life and renewal. Yet somewhere in the shadows of your mind, a question flickers. If this is purity, why does it hurt so much? As night approaches, lanterns flicker to life along the village paths, tiny flames reflected in oil-slicked puddles. You sit on your doorstep, legs heavy, eyes half closed. The festival songs echo faintly, and your head drops. You feel the thick crust of sweat, dust, and natron sealing you into a silent cocoon. Tomorrow will be the same. The river, the oil, the grinding salt. But for tonight, you let yourself sink into the dark, Your last thought, a small, secret wish for a single drop of warm, fragrant water. The festival is over. The songs have drifted off into the stars. The drums have gone silent, and the only sound left is the gentle slap of river water against the shore. You open your eyes to a sky brushed with violet and gold, the Nile gleaming like a long, coiled serpent. Your body feels heavy, each limb wrapped in an invisible shroud of salt and grime. You try to stretch, but your skin resists, crackling with dried oil and dust. The ache is both physical and spiritual, a reminder that you are alive, but never quite clean enough. This morning, the priests chant from the temple steps, their voices echoing down to the riverbank where you stand. They smell of lilies and cinnamon oil, their linen robes untouched by mud. The scent drifts toward you on the breeze, mocking the sour, earthy odor clinging to your own body. Nearby, a mother scrubs her child with natron, her hands moving with sharp, urgent strokes. The child whimpers, his skin raw and pink, but she whispers to him, "Better to sting now than to anger the gods later." You turn away, feeling a pang deep in your gut. You know that pain, that sharp, stinging ritual that replaces real comfort with the illusion of holiness. At the edges of the village, you can see workers trudging home from the fields. Their hairless heads shine in the early sun, dotted with scabs and small cuts from shaving. They carry baskets of leeks and onions, their meager harvest for the day. The smell of onion tangles with sweat, creating an invisible fog that trails behind them. Food is scarce and hunger gnaws at you like a small, persistent mouse. The barley bread you saved from the festival is already hard as stone. You soak it in water, turning it into a grayish paste that slides down your throat with a sour bite. You tell yourself it's enough, though you know it won't be. In the distance, the royal bark passes again, musicians playing softly, their flutes weaving through the morning air. You imagine how they bathe on that boat. Warm, perfumed water, gentle cloths, sweet oils from far-off lands. They glide from pool to pool, unbothered by flies or infections, oblivious to the scraping hands of villagers along the muddy shore. Yet even they, in all their splendor, fight invisible battles. Parasites slip into their baths. Skin diseases creep under their scented oils. Death does not discriminate. It lingers in the steam, in the cool marble basins, in the golden hair combs. As you watch the bark disappear around a bend in the river, you think of your own small moments of escape. The coolness of a morning breeze, the hush before dawn, the smell of fresh-cut lotus when no one is watching. Your ancestors believed that every act of purification was a rehearsal for the afterlife, the final, eternal audience with the gods. You wonder if, in that other world, the natron will be gentle, the water warm, and the oils sweet rather than sticky and suffocating. Your eyes drift closed as your thoughts wander to distant lands, to futures where soap might smell like lavender rather than sharp salt, where warm showers might replace muddy river splashes. You feel your body sink into the earth, the weight of centuries pressing gently on your chest, urging you toward rest. For now, you are here. You are dust and oil, prayer and hunger, hope and exhaustion, all at once.
May you dream tonight of cool water that doesn't sting, of gentle hands that soothe instead of scrape, of a purity that feels like kindness rather than pain. Sleep well, gentle soul.
Night returns softly, like a linen veil floating over your weary mind. The Nile breathes beneath the moonlight, shimmering with silver ripples that seem to whisper old secrets. You lie on your reed mat, the smell of dust and oil rising from your own skin, weaving itself into your dreams before sleep can fully claim you. Tonight, you think of the priests again, their meticulous routines, the 4 daily baths, the constant shaving and oiling. To them, every act of cleansing was a sacrifice, a gift to the gods in exchange for health, protection, and favor. Yet, you wonder, who really paid the price? You remember watching them from afar as they carried offerings into the temple. Baskets of figs and pomegranates, jars of beer and honey, the scent of roasted goose drifting across the courtyard. You, meanwhile, scrape together lentils and onions, praying for just one piece of fish to ease the gnawing emptiness in your belly. You saw the priests anoint their foreheads with sacred ointments, so fragrant they could make you dizzy just standing nearby. But for you, the perfume was more often the acrid sting of natron and the sweet, sour smell of sweat trapped in your tunic. Inside the temple walls, they believed that their purity kept the cosmic balance, that Ma'at, the delicate order of the universe, depended on spotless hands and hairless bodies. Outside those walls, you believed purity kept your place in the village, kept you from being cast out as unclean. Social death was as frightening as real death. To be avoided was to disappear. Disease haunted every corner. Eye infections from river mud, festering sores from sand caught under oil layers, and parasites crawling invisibly into wounds. In the heat, wounds smelled sweet and rotten at the same time, like overripe dates left too long in the sun. You saw elders wrap sores in old linen strips, hoping the gods might notice and intervene. Children cried at night with fever so high they hallucinated gods coming to snatch them away. And still, you woke each day scraping at your skin, telling yourself this was how you survived. And there were the festivals. Oh, the shimmering, colorful illusions. You remembered seeing nobles toss handfuls of scented petals into the crowd, as if they were scattering blessings. The petals stuck to your oiled arms and face, momentarily masking the odor of unwashed hair and the sharp, rancid smell of cheap castor oil. You pretended it felt beautiful. At night, when the festival fires died and the stars scattered across the sky like spilled beads, you lay on your mat and wondered what real comfort might taste like. Would it be the taste of fresh pomegranate juice running down your chin? The feeling of warm water slipping down your back, washing away the layers of daily struggle? The sound of no scratching, no whimpering, no hushed prayers to stop the itching. In that fragile space between wakefulness and dreams, you sense a softness, an almost impossible gentleness. Maybe it's your mind creating a fantasy, or maybe it's a glimpse of another life, another age, one where hygiene is no longer punishment, where soap is soft and floral, where baths are acts of care rather than acts of pain. You hold on to that vision as your eyes flutter closed, your breathing finally slow and steady. The Nile murmurs a lullaby beyond the walls, and the moon guards your village like a silent, watchful deity. The first warmth of morning crawls across your face like a cautious lizard, waking you from dreams both sweet and stinging. You blink at the pale gold sky, listening to the slow symphony of the village coming alive. Coughing, the clatter of pots, distant bleats of goats. Another day, another chance to chase an impossible kind of clean. You rise slowly, your muscles stiff from the rough mat. Each movement sends tiny flares of pain across your raw skin, reminders of the endless natron scrubs. You inhale deeply, tasting the day. Smoke from dung fires, crushed reeds, sour sweat. It isn't pleasant, but it is yours, as certain as the river's pull. Today you've heard whispers of a visiting noble family. The servants rush around with baskets of lotus flowers, lumps of perfumed fat, and baskets of fresh linen. Rumor says the nobles bring golden bowls filled with imported honey, rare oils, and even tiny cakes sweetened with dates. You close your eyes and imagine licking the sticky sweetness from your fingers, a dream so far from your daily lentils and flatbread it almost feels cruel. As you shuffle past the temple walls, you catch a glimpse of a priestess, her bald head gleaming under a cone of melting perfume. She carries herself like a living statue, each step a poem of grace. You remember how she never touches the Nile directly, only sacred water, drawn from deep wells and stored in special jars. No parasites for her, no stinging mud, only sweet perfumed drops that run down her arms like liquid pearls. Meanwhile, the riverbank is already crowded. Villagers jostle for space, each with a clay jar to fill. A mother rubs natron onto her son's back, his small shoulders trembling as he fights the sting. An old man dips his feet, his toenails yellow and cracked, while muttering prayers for relief from the fevers that haunt him each summer.
You move to your usual spot, squatting low and scooping handfuls of water. It drips through your fingers, brown and shimmering, the same water that carried your ancestors and will one day swallow your bones. As you pour it over your head, your scalp screams from tiny cuts left by your last shave. You force your breath to slow, imagining each drop as a gift, not a punishment. Nearby, a friend offers you a scrap of linen to dry your face. You see the kindness in her eyes, a rare softness in this world of scratching and scraping. You share a tired smile, one that says, "We're still here." Later, you return home and rub a thin layer of oil across your skin. The oil is gritty today, mixed with dust from the courtyard. You close your eyes and imagine it is frankincense instead of castor, soft instead of sticky. In this moment, you are both a priest and a laborer, a noble and a ghost, suspended between worlds by your longing for gentleness. As the day drags on, you watch the nobles from afar, their pale linen robes floating in the breeze. You hear them laugh softly, their fingers wrapped around cups of honey wine. For them, purity is effortless. For you, it is a lifelong struggle, an endless cycle of scraping, oiling and praying. The sun dips low, and you feel the ache settling deeper into your bones, yet somewhere inside you a small spark glows, a quiet pride. You endure, you survive, even when the river poisons you, when natron cuts you, when hunger gnaws at you, you remain. As the first stars appear, you press your palms together and whisper to the gods, not for more oil or cleaner water, but for another dawn, another chance to step into the river, to breathe the sharp air, to exist in this world that demands so much and gives so little.
The moon has long set, and the stars now glow faintly, soft as old linen. You lie awake, eyes half open, feeling each heartbeat echo against your raw ribs. It's not just exhaustion that holds you captive tonight. It's a deeper heaviness, the invisible burden of being clean enough to exist among gods and neighbors alike. You recall the smell of the Nile today, that mossy, sweet rot mingled with a sharp mineral bite. Even now, in the hush of your room, you taste it on your lips like an uninvited guest that never quite leaves. The itch from yesterday's natron scrubs creeps back, a ghostly finger tracing your arms and legs. Above you, on a rooftop, a neighbor softly hums a lullaby to her baby. You listen, imagining her tiny one wrapped in frayed linen, tiny fists curled, his bald head gleaming like a small moon. You think of the day he too will stand at the riverbank, shivering under the morning sun as natron bites his skin, his first lesson in the language of survival. Somewhere beyond the walls, priests chant the morning prayers, preparing for dawn even before the first hint of gold touches the sky. Their chants drift over the village like an invisible perfume, heavy with meaning, but light enough to vanish before it reaches you. You remember seeing a noble boy yesterday, no older than 10, standing on a palace terrace. A servant gently washed him with warmed, scented water from a golden basin. His laughter tinkled through the air like silver bells, so different from the hoarse giggles of children down at the muddy riverbank. You watched his thin, delicate ankles as his feet danced in the basin. You wondered if he had ever felt the bite of natron or smelled the swampy breath of the Nile up close.
Your own childhood feels far away now. You remember scratching at lice under the relentless sun, your mother rubbing natron on your scalp, humming old temple songs to distract you. You hated the sting, but afterward she would kiss your forehead and whisper, "Now the gods can see you." You believed her then. Perhaps you still do, in some small, aching corner of your heart. As you lie there, your skin tight and tingling, you think about how every part of your body has been claimed by a ritual. Your hair, your sweat, your scent, even your pain. Each layer of oil, each grain of natron, each scrape of your hands against your scalp, all of it a bargaining chip in a cosmic game you never agreed to play. Yet, despite the sharpness of this truth, a soft warmth curls in your chest, because beneath it all, you have built something unbreakable, the stubborn will to endure. You have learned to find moments of sweetness in small, stolen ways, a friend's gentle touch with a scrap of linen, a fleeting smile from a child who knows the sting of natron but still giggles at a passing frog. The temple bells begin to sound in the distance, low and slow. calling the first priests to wash and prepare for morning rites. You feel your eyelids grow heavy, your breath deepening. Each exhale, a quiet surrender to the coming day. Tomorrow you will rise again. You will walk to the river, scoop the same brown water, scrub the same weary skin. You will wince and pray and carry the weight of your purity on raw shoulders. But tonight, for this small slice of darkness, you allow yourself to imagine a world where you might bathe in kindness rather than salt, where your worth is not measured by how much you can scrape away.
You rise before the first rooster dares to greet the dawn, your body aching as though you had carried stone blocks all night in your dreams. You slip your feet into rough papyrus sandals, their edges curled and brittle from too many mornings like this. Outside, the world is hushed, painted in misty gray and lavender. You hear the rustle of neighbors waking, a cough here, a muffled yawn there, the creak of reed doors swinging open. Even the Nile lies still, as though it too dreads the first light. You shuffle to your small clay jar of oil, poking at its thick, sticky contents. It smells sharp and sour today, a mix of rancid castor and dust. You hesitate, just for a moment, before scooping a handful and smearing it along your arms and chest. The coldness bites your skin, the texture like wet ash. You shudder, but keep going. You have no choice. This oil is your fragile armor against the scalding sun and the gossiping glances of your neighbors. In the courtyard next door, you hear the sharp crack of a woman scolding her daughter. The girl protests, her voice breaking, as her mother forces natron into her scalp. You wince at each whimper. There is no softness here, only the endless echo of survival masquerading as devotion. And yet, rebellion flickers at the edges of your thoughts. A tiny, almost treasonous question. What if we stopped? What if you left the natron to rest quietly in its jar? Let the oil go rancid in the sun. Let the Nile flow on without you, unperturbed. Would the gods really turn their faces away? Would your neighbors shun you? Or would they sigh in relief and join you, dropping their jars in the sand and stepping forward as they are, dusty, scratched, wholly human?
But the thought fades quickly, snuffed out like a candle in the temple breeze. Tradition is a strong net woven through every layer of your life. Even if the priest's prayers don't keep the parasites away, even if the oil doesn't protect your skin, these rituals tether you to each other, to your ancestors, to the endless swirl of Ra's daily rebirth. As the sun edges higher, you watch a small procession move along the far side of the village. Temple boys carrying jars of sacred water, their heads shaved and shining like polished alabaster. They chant as they walk, their voices high and reedy, carrying a thin, sharp purity through the heavy morning air. You look at your own skin, to find cracks where the natron carved tiny rivers, the dark streaks where yesterday's oil mixed with dust. You see not failure, but quiet bravery, each mark a testament to the small, daily wars you wage against heat, disease, shame, and expectation. A neighbor calls your name, breaking your reverie. She offers a piece of barley bread, hard and coarse, but her smile is warm, a tiny sun in the shade. You take it,
your fingers brushing hers, a silent exchange of solidarity stronger than any temple incense. Later, as you rinse your cracked feet in a shallow clay basin, you look up at the sky. You imagine clouds shaped like soft cloths washing you with gentle rain, oiling your skin with fragrant mists rather than punishing salt. You let the fantasy bloom for a breath, then exhale it into the dust. Tonight, when you lie back on your mat, you might remember this moment, the fleeting thought of saying no to the endless scrubbing and scraping. And maybe, in your dreams, you will finally let go. Until then, you continue. You scrape, you oil, you offer whispered prayers, but somewhere deep within, beneath all the layers of salt and oil, something new has begun to glow, a quiet ember of your own truth.
As the first true rays of morning carve golden lines across the mud brick walls, you feel a familiar wave of dread rise in your belly. The day stretches ahead of you, long and merciless as the desert horizon. You rub the last smear of oil into your ankles, feeling how it clings to your cracked heels like sticky honey on broken pottery. The smell is no longer shocking, just a part of you now, a living layer of your skin. You look down and see the glint of dust in the creases of your knees, each grain a tiny monument to 1,000 small humiliations. A rooster crows, harsh and triumphant. You hear neighbors shuffling past, carrying baskets of reeds and fish nets, children trailing behind like tired shadows. Someone laughs, but it is the thin, dry laugh of someone who has learned to find joy in splinters. You watch them go and think again of that small ember inside you, the one you felt last night in the dark, that whisper of a question, what if we didn't have to do this? But for now, that question is too heavy to carry. Instead, you follow the quiet choreography expected of you. You step to the river, you kneel, you scoop. The water is cold today, cold enough to sting your fingers numb before you even touch your forehead. You gasp, then force your breath to slow, to mirror the patient pulse of the river. A neighbor's child sits beside you, staring at the swirling water with wide, solemn eyes. He holds a small clay amulet shaped like the god Bes, protector against evil spirits and nightmares. You meet his gaze and see a flicker of something you recognize, the same silent, weary knowing. You want to reach out to tell him it won't always hurt this much, that one day he might find a gentler way to be clean. But your mouth stays shut. Words are too fragile in this place.
Later, back at your home, you hang your damp tunic on a cracked wooden peg. You run your hands over your scalp, feeling new scabs forming under the thin film of oil. You sigh and let your fingers rest there, cradling your own head like a fragile egg. Through the small window, you see the temple courtyard. The priests move like pale, perfumed phantoms, flicking drops of sacred water onto the ground as offerings. You watch them, feeling both envy and pity. Their perfection is an illusion built on endless labor, just like yours, only gilded. A group of noble children passes, trailing servants who fan them with palm leaves. Their skin gleams like polished ivory, untouched by natron or swamp water. You watch them vanish into a golden doorway and wonder,
What do they dream of at night? Do they ever imagine the bite of salt on their skin, the crawl of lice under their wigs? Do they think of you? You sit down slowly, stretching your legs out across the cool floor. For a moment you close your eyes and imagine rain, real gentle rain, falling from the sky, washing away every crust of salt and every layer of oil. You imagine standing under that sky, arms outstretched, laughing as the water soaks your scalp, sliding in clean and cool ribbons down your back. Your breath softens, your mind drifts towards sleep, though the day is still young. In this moment between waking and dreaming, you feel lighter, almost free. You hear the distant echo of temple bells and think, maybe one day our rituals will become kinder. Maybe one day purity will be a softness instead of a blade. Until then, you carry on. You bow to the river, to the sun, to the gods who demand so much and give so little. You do it for your place in this fragile world, for the community that holds you as it wounds you.
The sun is now fully awake, blazing above you like a god too proud to blink. You feel its gaze on every pore, every crack in your skin. Your scalp tingles under its stare, raw from yesterday's scraping and this morning's fresh coat of oil. You shuffle to your small courtyard, where a shallow clay basin sits waiting. The water inside is murky, already lined with a thin film of dust. You kneel beside it, hands trembling slightly, and splash a handful onto your face. The cold shocks you, but it is a sharpness you've learned to accept, even crave, a small reminder that you're still alive, still capable of feeling. A neighbor's child skips past, her bald head bouncing in the sun. She holds a lotus flower, its white petals already browning at the edges. She pauses to wave, and you wave back with a small, tired smile. You remember carrying lotus blossoms yourself, back when your arms were still strong and your skin had not yet learned the language of matron's burn. Your mind drifts to the priests once more, their bodies moving with ceremonial grace that looks almost otherworldly from a distance. You wonder if they ever stand alone in their chambers, staring at their reflection in polished bronze mirrors, tracing the same lines of exhaustion you see in yourself. Today, as the festival preparations continue, the village pulses with frenetic energy. Women smear children's heads with perfumed wax cones, pressing them down firmly until the children wince. You hear someone laugh at a joke about a neighbor's new lice infestation, the sound edged with both mockery and fear, because everyone knows they might be next. You hear a rumor that a priest collapsed in the temple this morning. Some say it was the heat. Others whisper of a fever that no amount of ritual baths could wash away. You feel a strange, guilty comfort in this, a reminder that even the purest among you are not truly safe.
Your own feet ache from standing at the riverbank earlier, waiting your turn among the shifting, restless crowd. You watched as each person cupped the river in their hands like a fragile blessing, their eyes flicking nervously at the crocodiles lurking just beyond the reeds. This afternoon, as you sit under the slight shade of a half-broken awning, you close your eyes and imagine slipping beneath the water entirely, not just your hands or feet, but your whole body sinking into the cool darkness. In that imagined silence, you feel no oil, no salt, no buzzing flies. Only the gentle embrace of water,
wrapping around you like a mother's arms. But the fantasy shatters as a sharp shout pulls you back. Someone spilled a precious jar of oil, and the air is thick with scolding voices and bitter disappointment. You open your eyes, your breath coming shallow and quick, the dream dissolving into dust. You look at your arms, at the fine lines of cracks and old cuts, the fingerprints of survival etched deep. Each mark tells a story of days spent under the pitiless sun, of riverbank prayers, of hurried scrubs for temple festivals. These scars are your true hieroglyphs, more honest than any inscription on a tomb wall. As the evening begins to curl around the village, you feel the air shift, a soft hush settling like dew. You lean your head back, staring at the sky now turning pale gold and lavender. You let the quiet wash over you, imagining for just a moment that you are not bound by oil or natron or river sludge. In this fading light, you almost believe that tomorrow might come without the sting, that one day the gods might ask for nothing but your breath, your heart beating steady beneath your ribs.
Evening settles over the village like a soft linen shroud, pale violet at first, then deepening into indigo. The Nile breathes slowly beside you, the water carrying moonlight in small, delicate ripples. You sit on a low mud brick ledge outside your door, your legs dangling, your fingers worrying at a crack in the wall. The day's heat lingers in your skin, a slow, low burn beneath the oil and dust. You catch the occasional whiff of your own body, sharp, sour, earthy. You think of the temple priests still moving through their final chants behind their tall white walls, bathed in clouds of incense that would make your eyes water. Tonight, the temple prepares for a moonlit ritual. The priests have been scrubbing since before dawn, their bodies gleaming, their heads reflecting torchlight like polished stones. They smear themselves with oils so costly that a single drop could feed your entire household for a week. You imagine those oils trickling down their spines, pooling in the hollow of their backs as they whisper prayers to gods who demand so much and offer so little comfort in return. You hear a sudden burst of laughter from a neighboring courtyard. Someone has found a lice comb dropped by a visiting merchant, a small treasure among the poor. They joke about who will use it first, their voices bright and brittle. You smile despite yourself, the sound of their laughter weaving into the hush of twilight like a defiant hymn. You think of the first time you learned to oil your skin. You were barely taller than a basket of reeds, your mother's rough hands guiding yours. You remember her voice. If you are not pure, they will not see you. If they do not see you, you do not exist. The words felt as heavy as a temple door even then.
Tonight, you sense a thin line of separation between your world and theirs. Between you, the oil-streaked villager, and the priests hidden behind clouds of myrrh. They stand in perfect, silent lines, each movement practiced to the rhythm of 1,000 years. You sit in the dirt, scratching at a scab on your shin, thinking of tomorrow's chores. A soft breeze passes, lifting the smell of crushed lotus petals from someone's doorway. You breathe it in slowly, deeply, letting it fill you until it slips away. In that moment, you almost forget the scabs, the sting of natron, the shame of cracked feet. Almost. A small boy runs past, his laugh trailing like a comet. He is bald, his head glistening with leftover oil, a thin reed whistle hanging from his lips. You watch him go, and for a moment, you see not a future of scraping salt and dodging parasites, but a bright spark of pure, unguarded life. Above, the moon rises, swelling and bright, casting its pale light over the mud walls, the priest's white linen, and the villagers' dust-caked shoulders alike. For this fleeting hour, the world feels almost equal under its soft, indifferent glow. You close your eyes and imagine stepping into that moonlight, your skin unmarked, your spirit unburdened. You imagine lifting your arms, not to scrub or scrape, but to simply feel, to catch the moon's quiet warmth and let it seep into your bones.
The moon now rides high above the Nile, a white eye watching over your quiet, aching world. You shift on your reed mat, feeling each bruise and callus as though they are separate, whispering creatures that live beneath your skin. Tonight, the village is strangely hushed. Even the goats seem to move softly, their bells tinkling like faraway stars. You hear someone softly singing an old hymn, the words slipping into the night air like incense smoke. O moon, wash me clean. O river, hide my shame. You don't remember where you first heard it. Perhaps your mother, or maybe a grandmother long gone. But the words nestle into your bones all the same. Your hands, rough and ridged, rest on your stomach. You feel the crust of dried oil beneath your fingernails, the sharp sting where natron opened tiny rivers across your forearms. The festival is coming to an end, but the rituals are forever. Always another day, another scrub, another layer of oil to trap the dust and sun. You imagine the priests now, deep inside the temple, chanting by flickering torchlight. Their bald heads are anointed with cones of scented max that melt slowly, dripping fragrant trails down their necks. You picture each drop as a golden bead, precious enough to feed your family for days, if you could only catch it. But these drops are for the gods, not for you. In your mind, you walk the temple halls. Cool limestone under your feet, walls lined with carved gods and floating lotus blooms. You see yourself stepping into a sacred basin, its water clean and perfumed, not crawling with hidden parasites or crocodile mud. For a heartbeat, you believe it. You let the dream run its gentle fingers through your hair, smoothing the endless scratching and scraping. But then you open your eyes to the coarse mat beneath you, the clay walls that tremble with each gust of wind. You hear a baby crying nearby, that thin, sharp cry of hunger and heat. You listen to the sound, feeling a pang that reaches deeper than any cut. You think of the mothers rubbing natron into tiny shoulders, whispering half prayers and half apologies. Somewhere in the dark, a dog barks, and a small echo of laughter follows. You smile, surprised by the softness that lingers in you even after everything. After the salt, the oil, the endless river, this small, stubborn joy is your truest prayer. You think of your neighbors, each carrying their invisible burdens. The woman who lost a child to the river last spring. The man who limps from a wound that never healed. The young girl who dreams of festival gold, but knows only the taste of barley bread. You see them all, woven together with you in the same tapestry of dust and moonlight. Your own body feels like a fragile archive tonight, each scar and scab a verse, each patch of raw skin a chant. You realize that beneath the thickened layers, beneath the scalding rituals and rigid traditions, there is a core in you that no priest's gaze can touch, no river can wash away. Tomorrow you will return to the riverbank. You will scoop, scrub, and shiver, because that is a story written for you. But tonight, you drift toward sleep wrapped in something older and kinder than natron. The simple fact of your breath, slow and soft in the moonlight.
The moon has begun its slow descent toward the horizon, its pale light catching on the ridges of your arms, turning your scars into tiny silver rivers. You lie there, half awake, listening to the hush that wraps the village like a soft shroud. You hear the shuffle of feet outside, a neighbor stumbling to the latrine, the creak of a door, the muffled cry of a donkey startled in its sleep. All around you, life continues in small, tired gestures. Even in the deepest dark, the village never fully sleeps. Your own eyes drift upward, tracing the stars. You think of them as distant, silent priests, watching your world with a kind of cold curiosity. How small your daily rituals must seem from up there. The endless scrubbing, the oiling, the prayers muttered between mouthfuls of barley bread. Tonight, your skin feels heavier than usual. The salt from the natron tugs at each movement, and each breath reminds you of the thin layer of dust that never truly leaves your lungs. You reach down to scratch an itch, then stop, remembering the fresh cuts that sting even in your dreams. You close your eyes and think of scarabs, those glossy black beetles that scuttle across the ground, rolling balls of dung with a strange, almost holy devotion. The priests say the scarab symbolizes rebirth, eternal transformation. You wonder if they ever imagine a scarab's life. All that rolling and pushing through dirt, always carrying its burden on fragile legs. You feel a quiet kinship with them tonight. A calm breeze slinks through the courtyard, carrying with it the scent of someone's half-burnt incense, the sharp tang of animal pens, and, faintly, the sweet decay of lotus petals left too long in the sun. You inhale deeply, letting the mixed perfume of your world settle into your chest like an old friend. Somewhere, a mother hums a lullaby. You don't know the words, but the melody folds around you like warm linen. You imagine her rocking her child, whispering promises of gentle dreams, a future beyond the river's sharp bite and the priest's endless demands. You turn on your side, feeling the mat's rough weave against your cheek. You think of the temple's cold limestone floors, the golden bowls, the perfect arcs of water splashing off smooth priestly shoulders. But tonight, that distant perfection feels less impressive, less real. Your dust, your oil, your scars, they tell stories no polished statue could ever hold. You imagine a different ritual, stepping into rain, not river water, letting it drench you until all the salt and shame slip away. You imagine the rain smelling of jasmine and honey, running in warm, forgiving streams down your back. In the stream, you do not shiver. You do not hide. You simply stand there, open and free. Slowly, your breath deepens. Your thoughts drift like small boats on the Nile, floating past reeds and moon reflections, carrying you further from the demands of the day. The last sliver of moonlight slides behind the western dunes, and you feel the night loosening its hold on your tired body. The air grows heavier, the promise of the day already pressing on your chest like a sleeping cat. You listen to the village wake, the rhythmic sweep of a broom against clay floors, the snort of an ox pulling at its tether, the soft murmur of morning prayers rising like thin smoke. Each sound stitches you tighter to this life, even as part of you drifts somewhere beyond the edge of the Nile. Your scalp prickles where yesterday's oil still clings, mixed now with dust and the memory of river mud. You scratch at it absent-mindedly, feeling small scabs crack open, the sting sharp enough to bring tears to your eyes. But the tears never fully come. They hover at the edges, too exhausted to fall. You think again of the priests behind the high limestone walls, those gatekeepers of purity. They will rise soon, stepping barefoot into cool stone halls, greeting each other in hushed voices heavy with ceremonial pride. They will pour sweet-smelling water over one another's shoulders, their eyes half closed as though in a private trance. Meanwhile, you consider your own basin of water, already turning murky from yesterday's washings. You will dip your hands into it, feel the cold, and pray the gods accept your cracked offering. You wonder, not for the first time, if they truly see you, if they ever bend their gaze beyond the temple walls, beyond the noble terraces, to the reed mats where you lie.
A calm memory surfaces. Your grandmother telling stories under a flickering oil lamp. She spoke of the gods as though they were neighbors, sometimes helpful, sometimes cruel, always hungry for devotion. You remember her saying, "They don't want your suffering. They want your spirit, your laugh, your breath." You never truly believed her. You wanted to. Oh, how you wanted to. But the river always called you back with its cold reality. A rooster crows, and you hear the first market sellers moving toward the edge of the village, their baskets filled with onions, lentils, and wilted herbs. You smell the morning fires sparking to life,
the scent of smoke weaving into the last strands of moonlight. You close your eyes and try to imagine the gods differently, not as watchful judges perched above the temple gates, but as gentle figures sitting beside you in the dirt, brushing your hair back, tracing your scars like old friends reading a beloved story. You imagine them seeing you, truly seeing you, and finding you enough, dust and all. Your breath begins to deepen, each inhale a small rebellion against the day's demands. You picture the Nile, not as a punishing necessity, but as a quiet companion, whispering old secrets through its reeds. You hear the frogs croak softly, the water lapping at stones like a lullaby. In this twilight between night and day, your mind floats to a place beyond oil and salt, beyond the heavy hands of tradition. You dream of warm rain falling in gentle sheets, of jasmine petals clinging to your arms instead of dust, of your spirit rising from your skin like a pale lotus in moonlit water. You feel yourself slipping again, drifting toward sleep, even as the village marches forward into the day. In your final waking moments, you cradle that dream close, a fragile jar of sweetness you carry inside, unseen by priests, untouched by natron. The village is fully awake now, alive with 100 small struggles that echo your own. You hear the scrape of grinding stones as women prepare the morning meal, the rhythmic slap of wet linen against rocks down at the riverbank, the urgent bleating of goats waiting to be fed. You remain seated by your cracked basin, the water now a tired swirl of yesterday's dust and today's prayers. You dip your fingers in, watch the ripple shiver outward, and feel a shudder run through you, as though the water itself has grown weary of its endless duty. You stand slowly, your joints crackling like dry reeds. You rub your arms absent-mindedly, feeling the thin film of oil that no longer smells of anything except time and fatigue. Once, oil was a gift, a fragrant promise of protection and favor. Now it feels like a second skin you can't peel away, a sticky reminder of the line between you and the priest's smooth illusions. Nearby, a woman braids her daughter's hair, her fingers moving with tired tenderness. The girl flinches as the mother pulls too hard, but she doesn't cry. You see her eyes already learning the unspoken lesson of stillness, of swallowing pain without a sound. You remember learning it yourself, kneeling at the river's edge, the sting of natron, a daily teacher. At the temple, you hear the faint clatter of golden bowls, the chanting that rolls like distant thunder over the mud brick roofs. You imagine the priests dipping their hands into scented water, their eyes half closed as if they alone understand the universe's secret rhythms. But you know their secret too. Under all that incense, under the wax cones and ivory combs, they are as fragile as you, as soft beneath their polished shells. You glance at your own reflection in the water, a pale ghost wavering on the surface. You see the cracks on your cheeks, the thin, exhausted lines beneath your eyes. You lean closer, and for a breath, you imagine speaking to that reflection. I see you. I know you. You are not just the dirt I wash away each morning.
A child runs past, giggling, his feet flinging up little storms of dust. You feel something stir inside you, a small, bright flicker. Perhaps it's the same flicker that lives in the lotus bloom opening at dawn, or in the glint of a fish's scales beneath the muddy water. A small defiance, hidden but stubborn. You think of all the offerings left at the temple, baskets of onions, cakes of barley, flowers that wilt before the afternoon heat. You wonder if the gods ever look beyond the gifts, if they ever see the trembling hands that carry them. Maybe the real offering is not the onion or the lotus, but the silent ache behind each gesture, the hope that we are enough, even covered in dust and oil. As the sun climbs higher, your body begins to feel heavy again. A living archive of old scrubs and oilings, of scars turned into quiet poems. You step back into your doorway, feeling the cool shadow slip around your shoulders. You breathe slowly, feeling each inhale like a small rebellious act against the endless chorus of cleaner, purer, holier. You imagine rain, soft and forgiving, not demanded by gods, but gifted by a sky that does not judge. As your eyes drift shut, you whisper to yourself, not a temple prayer, but a gentle vow. Tomorrow I will wake again, and beneath the salt and oil, I will still be here.
The sun now hangs overhead like a molten shield, burning every shadow into submission. You feel its heat pressing down on your shoulders, seeping into the cuts and creases of your skin until each breath feels like swallowing warm sand. You step back outside, squinting against the glare. Around you, the village bustles with a heavy rhythm. Women bent over cooking fires. Men patch broken reed mats or sharpen bronze tools. Children chase each other between doorways, their laughter sharp and fleeting. Life here is a dance of necessity, every movement tethered to survival. You watch as a young boy struggles to carry a clay jar filled with water from the river. The jar is too large for him. It wobbles dangerously with each step. You resist the urge to help. He must learn, as you did, that strength is not given, but carved slowly into your bones. He passes by you, panting, his feet kicking up little clouds of dust that settle into the oil on your legs like fine golden powder. You touch the small scar on your left wrist, a faded memory of a fall at the riverbank years ago. Your mother had scolded you, not for the wound, but for the mud that clung to your arms. "We must always be seen as pure," she had whispered harshly, scrubbing so hard that your tears felt saltier than the Nile itself. And yet, standing here now, you realize that those layers of oil and natron have not erased your true shape. They have only hidden it, temporarily, imperfectly. You are still here beneath it all, a tapestry of scars, sunburn, and quiet defiance. You hear the temple chants rise again in the distance, echoing through the hot air. The priests move like pale cranes, delicate and aloof, their wax cones slowly melting into fragrant trails. You imagine them turning their heads toward the village, seeing the flickering shapes of people bent in work, and you wonder, do they envy your dust, your ordinary aches? A breeze teases your face, carrying the faint smell of lotus and dung fires, the sharp note of crushed herbs. You close your eyes and let the breeze wrap around you like a veil, imagining it as a river that cleanses not with sting, but with softness. A neighbor waves at you from across the courtyard, holding up a scrap of bread and a small act of offering.
You raise a hand in reply, feeling warmth rise behind your ribs. In that fleeting exchange, there is a deeper purity than any natron can offer. A shared breath of kindness that needs no ritual, no priestly approval. As the heat deepens, you step back into the narrow strip of shade by your doorway, feeling the clay wall cool against your spine. You slide down until you are sitting on the ground, knees drawn to your chest, arms wrapped loosely around them. Your breath slows, each inhale carrying the village's living heartbeat. You think of tomorrow, another scrub at the river, another layer of oil, another whispered prayer beneath a sky that watches but does not answer. You think of the hidden ember inside you, the one that refuses to be smothered by salt or sun. Your eyes flutter closed, and for a moment you feel yourself floating, not on the Nile, but on some invisible current beyond this world. In that drifting, you are untouched by oil, unscarred by natron. You are simply you, soft, human, whole. As the sun begins its slow descent, the harsh white light softens into a golden glow that drips down the mud brick walls like honey. The village exhales, as though everyone has been holding their breath all day, waiting for the heat to loosen its grip. You watch shadows stretch long across the courtyard, twisting like old dancers reaching for the river. You lean your head back against the wall, your scalp sticky beneath your palm, and close your eyes. For a moment, the world feels slow enough to touch. A neighbor walks past carrying a bundle of reeds on her head, her arms steady as a temple pillar. A small girl follows her, carrying a single lotus flower as though it were the most precious thing in all of Egypt. You smile at the child's careful steps, the quiet concentration on her brow, a mirror of your own silent rituals. The day has left you covered in a patchwork of oil, sweat, and dust so thick it feels like an extra skin. You run a fingertip across your forearm, tracing a faint line where a bead of sweat cut through the dust, leaving a pale, gleaming trail. You think, almost fondly, of how these layers tell your true story, not the story the priests demand, but the one you live in each breath, each scrape, each quiet kindness. In the distance, the temple bells begin their evening song. The sound ripples through the air, mixing with the smell of roasting onions and smoldering dung fires. You imagine the priests stepping into the final wash of the day, water scented with herbs you can barely name, oil poured in deliberate streams across their shoulders like molten gold. You picture yourself there among them, your own scars and scratches catching the lamplight, your breath echoing softly between the limestone walls. But in this dream, you do not bow or scrub. You stand tall, water pooling at your feet, the oil sliding off you like rain off lotus leaves. You are enough as you are, unpolished and unhidden. A boy runs past you now, his feet thumping in the dust, a reed flute clutched in his hand. His song is thin, breathy, but filled with an unexpected sweetness that slices through the evening haze. You listen, your chest tightening at the fragile hope woven into each note. Someone nearby laughs, a real laugh, loud and sudden, like a jar breaking open. You find yourself laughing too, a quiet chuckle at first, then a deeper ripple rising from your chest. It surprises you, the way it feels like warm water after a lifetime of stinging natron.
As the sky deepens to purple, stars blink awake one by one, each a tiny eye watching over the village. You feel them settle around you like a cloak, gentle and indifferent. You realize that tonight you are not a body to be scrubbed clean, not a vessel to be purified for unseen gods. Tonight, you are simply a small, breathing part of this universe, as worthy of softness as any priest's golden basin. You lean forward, elbows resting on your knees, and let your breath slow. You can almost hear your heart speaking, a low, steady drum calling you home to yourself. The stars now spread above you like 1,000 tiny oil lamps, each one flickering in its own silent language. The purple dusk has deepened into a velvet black, wrapping the village in a gentle hush. You feel the weight of the day slip from your shoulders, though the dust still clings to your skin like a final, stubborn whisper. The courtyard around you quiets. You hear a mother's soft voice in the shadows, humming an old lullaby as she rubs oil into her child's scalp. Her song floats between the walls, weaving through the warm air like a thin thread of moonlight. You find yourself swaying to it, your breath slowing, your heartbeat echoing in time. You touch your chest, feeling the rise and fall beneath your fingers, that small, unremarkable miracle you carry inside every day. For a moment, you think of all the mornings you have scrubbed away pieces of yourself, chasing a purity promised but never delivered. The gods watched, the priests nodded, but did they ever hear the tiny crack that opened inside you each time? Somewhere in the distance, you hear a donkey bray, followed by a quick burst of laughter from young boys sneaking out to chase fireflies near the reeds. You imagine them barefoot in the cool mud, their giggles rising like sparks. Their joy is as pure as any ritual, more honest than any offering of onions or beer. Tonight, the air carries the scent of roasted fish, sweet lotus petals, and smoke, a heady blend of celebration and survival. You breathe it in deeply, feeling it slide into your lungs and settle like a quiet blessing.
Your eyes drift up to the stars again. You imagine them as eyes of your ancestors, watching, not with judgment, but with tender curiosity. You wonder if they see you scratching at your scalp, wincing as you shift on your mat, laughing unexpectedly at a child's silly game. You imagine them nodding in approval at your small rebellions, your secret softness. In this darkness, a quiet truth shimmers. No oil can truly protect you. No natron can make you whole. The river can wash your skin, but not your spirit. The rituals may bind the community together, but they can never fully define your worth. You are already more than enough, a mosaic of scars, laughter, and silent strength. You rest your head back against the wall, eyes half closed, the sounds of the village rising and falling around you like a lullaby. The night feels endless in the best way, as though it could hold all your aches, all your quiet hopes without breaking. Your breath deepens,
You imagine stepping into a moonlit pool that does not sting or scrape, water that welcomes every part of you without question. You float there, weightless, your skin glowing softly beneath the stars. The night now lies heavy and deep, like a soft blanket woven from river mist and moonlight. You feel each breath slip into your chest, slow and patient, as though your body has finally remembered how to rest. Around you, the village has gone quiet. Even the restless goats have settled, their low sighs drifting into the cool darkness. A few late lamps still glow behind thin linen curtains, small pools of amber light against the sea of black. You imagine each flame as a small beating heart, fragile, flickering, but determined to stay alive through the night. You listen to the faint ripple of the Nile beyond the walls, its gentle voice older than any chant, older than the gods themselves. You think of the countless mornings you've stood at its banks, scooping its muddy water to your forehead, whispering prayers that felt more like apologies. You remember the cold bite of natron, the sharp scent of cheap oil, the endless cycle that ground your spirit as surely as it smoothed your skin. And yet tonight, in this hush, something shifts inside you. You feel it, a tiny warmth, an ember beneath the scars, beneath the layers of salt and dust. It has always been there, waiting for you to stop, to be still enough to hear its quiet call. Your mind drifts back to the mother braiding her daughter's hair in the courtyard, to the giggling boys by the reeds, to the neighbor who offered you a piece of bread with eyes soft as moonlit water. These small, unguarded gestures shimmer brighter than any temple ritual, each one a true blessing in a world so quick to demand and so slow to give.
You close your eyes and see a vision. You standing under a rain that never comes to Egypt, warm and scented with jasmine and honey. It washes over you gently, slipping into every crack and scar, lifting the dust without pain, without shame. You raise your face to it, and for the first time, you feel no need to scrub, no urge to hide. You simply stand there, enough in your own soft, silent light. Your breath deepens, the last scraps of tension fall away, and your body feels as if it might dissolve into the night air, light, unburdened, whole. Tomorrow, the sun will rise, and the chants will echo again. The river will wait, the natron will sting, and the oil will coat your skin once more. But tonight, in this single perfect hour, you know you are not the dust you wash away, nor the oil you smear to hide your human softness. You are the laugh that bursts without permission, the quiet hand that offers bread, the breath that persists beneath 1,000 rituals. As your mind drifts toward sleep, you hold that truth close, like a lotus folded in the hollow of your palm. You promise yourself to remember, even when the salt stings and the gods remain silent. May tonight's dreams carry you beyond the Nile's curve, into a quiet, endless expanse where you are always whole, always luminous. May you wake tomorrow feeling that hidden glow rising through your ribs, stronger than any ritual, more sacred than any temple bell. Good night, eternal river spirit, dust bearer, moon dreamer. You are enough. Always.